Hey everyone, just following up on the evolution lecture. Remember that we talked about the different types of evolution. We talked about the three conditions for natural selection, evolution by natural selection, variability of a trait, heritability of a trait, and differential reproductive success, right? So now that we have all that, let me get the beard out of the mic. Now that we have all that, we can start talking about the subtleties of evolution. So let's... Okay, so there are several things beyond the different capacity, like the different conditions for evolution by natural selection. When those are met, you have evolution by natural selection. However, we need to understand several little things. The first one is that your evolution will never stop. So you have to realize that. How do I select something? Okay, here we go. So the first one is that evolution never stops. It's not like, for example, if we continue with the example of the seahorse and the coral. Although the seahorse looks exactly like the coral, right? At that point, or really close, that doesn't mean it stops. There still is variation among individuals. There will still be some individuals that are a little bit more like the coral, and maybe the environment changes. So the coral changes slightly color. Discoloration of coral happens all the time due to acidification of the oceans, due to increased carbon dioxide concentration in the air, right? So that means that that means the environment changes all the time. So since that is true, evolution's target is constantly changing, which is another point of why evolution is not about survival of the fittest. Because the fittest is constantly changing. It's more survival of, like, non-survival of the less fit, of a non-fit enough, if you want. So the goal is ever changing, right? Which means that there's no goal. Evolution will not really have a goal. It's weird. Like I can sometimes, and sometimes I cannot. Yeah, because I'm dumb. And now I'm not dumb, but I was a little bit of a doofus in there. Okay. So does not have a goal. The goal is ever changing. And since that goal is ever changing, the differential reproductive success is also ever changing, right? Change the environment, change what is the fittest, change what matters the most, right? Which also talks to the fact that it's not about keeping the best allele in the population. It's not about this. The point is the best. What is the best? Every time you hear something that's subjective, it should beg the question, what is the best? And once you realize that the best is subjective, you realize that evolution doesn't aim for that, because that thing is always changing based on the environment. Evolution is more culling out the organism not fit enough. So really, I do want you to take off of your mind completely that idea that evolution is selection of a fetus, like survival of a fetus. It's not, right? With that being said, there are some misconceptions that are left after we already know that, and some of those misconceptions, I have them in that table here. The point being, if biological evolution explains the origin of life, that's not true. Biological evolution just explains after life exists, right? It didn't start because there was nothing to evolve. There was no life. So that's a reason why there is no conflict between religion and evolution. Religion is about why we're here, what's the reason, the purpose. And evolution does not deal with purpose. There is no purpose in that process. So it would be similar than, like, if you think that religion conflicts with evolution, it's really similar to say there's a conflict between gravity and religion, or there's a conflict between electricity and religion. Those are not concerned, electricity, gravity, evolution, with belief or meaning, right? It's not of life. It's not about that. It's about explaining the world. Evolution is no different from electricity, from weather, from gravity, just those basic stuff of life around you, right? Evolution is a random process. That's a misconception. Mutations have a random one. Although evolution doesn't have a goal, there is still a direction that's ever changing, right? but there is a direction. So it's not like evolution is completely random. What's random are the mutations. So that means the material that evolution works with is completely random, which means that when we look at what has evolved in the populations, we think, oh, that's a totally random, by random chance that this evolved. And that's true, but the fact that it evolved is not a random process, right? That's the subtlety here. And in changing environment, all individuals in population simultaneously develop beneficial adaptation. That's not true. They have adaptation that, as I mentioned before, the seahorses may start with a lot of variation, and then there's one that looks a little bit more like the coral, but that doesn't mean all of a sudden all of them look like the coral, right? Which means that that individual that does better may actually not make it, and if they die, they're gone. So a lot of adaptations, which are beneficial mutation, new trait, those have been called out by just random events, right? So it doesn't mean that because there's something good that it's going to stick. That's basically what it means. When we talk about fitness, that fitness and reproductive success is how we're going to define it in this class. So the key is to remember that the way we define that is how many babies make it successfully. And it's also a moving target because, for example, take the example of humans. When is a baby successful? When it's been conceived, 9 months of gestation, 8, 7, 3, at birth, right? As soon as that change, like it changes how we count reproductive success. If we count how many pregnancies, that doesn't account for the death before birth. If we count how many births, it doesn't account how many make it to the reproductive age. So usually the reproductive success, we define it as the number of individuals that are conceived and make it to the reproductive age, because that's what matters for passing on genes, right? For all those individuals that are born but don't make it to the time they're reproductively active, they actually don't count from the point of view of evolution, right? So for reproductive success, we'll go with that, the individuals that are born and make it to reproductive age. Right, so these are really, I went over those, and I want to leave it to that for this video. I want you to take the time to absorb all of those things about evolution and everything that's really important. The misconception here, it seems trivial. When I explain it to you here in this video, you understand it, and it makes sense because I'm the one doing the work. Now I want you to take the time to go and explain to someone in your life around you. And it could be your dog. I did that on my own. I talked a lot to my dog when I was in school. It can be yourself, but you need to do it without a safety net. Take a piece of paper or go to someone without your notes and then say, I'm going to explain to you evolution. And you'll see they have many questions, and you're going to have to explain why what they're saying, because they're probably going to mention misconception. You're going to have to explain them. And or as you're explaining evolution as it is, they're going to be telling you like, oh, I never understood it that way. Or you're going to, first of all, have to come up with an explanation of evolution that is sound. So ideally, what you're doing is you're doing that process with other classmates that are actively looking at the notes as you're explaining. Like that when you say something, they don't take you at your words, they can check it out, right? So it means we go through that process of accepting to be wrong and try in front of others to explain evolution. And once you do that, others can give you feedback. Oh, you did that right, you could have done that better, this was not on point, and you get better. But you need to do that process now, because this piece of evolution is extremely important. It's not that easy to keep it straight all the time. It's really, really easy to slip up and to say something that is not correct. Many people anthropomorphize. Many people say things like, oh, that sea coral looks like the coral, a seahorse looks like the coral because it allows it to survive. That is wrong, right? It looks like the coral because all of those that did not have been predated upon. So the only one left are the one looking like the coral. It's a mouthful, but that's actually correct. And it's really important to have the cause and effect in the right order and not flip those. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Do work on that. Do it in earnest. It's really gonna pay off in the long run. You guys take care and see you in the next one. Bye.